Picture this. You are 28 weeks pregnant and you're told your unborn child might not survive. And if he does, he would have a genetic syndrome which would affect his quality of life. Grace, that was your story. It must have been a scary time.
It was very scary.
Tell me about that day, if you can go back, and hearing that news. Tell me, what was that like?
It was shock. It was very scary. You know, at first when we heard it, we're like, well, you know, at first we heard that Matthew was missing limbs. And so we're like, well, that's okay, we'll get prosthetics. You know, we'll help him. But then the one doctor there said, well, that's not the issue is that he might not live. And so, or if he would, then there would be a lot of disability involved, and possibly a mental disability too. And so, yeah, it was just, we just wanted him to live. It didn't matter about the missing limbs. Like we just wanted to have a baby.
Yeah. And one of the doctors had mentioned the A word, abortion, and had said that if you had known earlier, that could have been a possibility.
Yeah, and as soon as he had said that, Don's brother was actually in the room with us because he was or a resident at the time at the hospital. But we just both said, well, that's not an option. Like, that was never an option for us. So, like, I just wanted my baby. I didn't believe in abortion, so.
Why was that not an option for you?
Well, I believe that God has designed life and has a plan for each one of us. And so
even knowing that your child might be born with a lot of disabilities and challenges, this was not an option for you?
No, not at all. I would just, we would just deal with whatever child God gave us.
So you prayed?
Oh yeah, we prayed a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And tell me why? Why choose to do that?
Well, for one thing, we sort of both felt very alone. Nobody else we knew had dealt with anything like this. It was just Don and I. And I also felt like my spirit was crushed. In Psalms, it talks about that God is close to you when your spirit is crushed. And that's just how I felt. I felt really low. And so really for us, the only way to look was up. And that was to pray and also to read our Bibles and to see what God had to say and what he could help us with dealing with this.
So take me to that day that your little Matthew was born.
Okay.
What was that like when you saw your baby?
Yeah, well, that day, I remember my water broke at home, and all the things we'd been told that he might not live or whatever, I just remember I was happy to finally go into labor. You know, I had been waiting from 28 weeks on to find out what this was going to be, and I was just happy that I was going to have my baby. And so we went in, and I ended up having a C-section. And so Matthew was whisked away to the intensive care doctor to assess him. And so I didn't see him right away, but 20 minutes later I did. And I just saw his beautiful face, and I just knew by looking in his face that he had no mental disability. I just knew it. I could see that bright spirit in him. So that was really, I was just so happy that he made it through the delivery and that he was there.
And there was a nurse that kind of was watching how you and Dawn were treating your child, and she said something to you. What did she say?
Yeah, she said she'd been nursing for about 20 years and she'd never seen anyone react this way. And so she was...
React what way?
I guess just that we just loved him the way he was, and we were just so happy that he was there. Yeah.
And so as Matthew got older, tell us about some of the challenges that Matthew has had and what he was born with.
Okay. Well, Matthew was born, he's a quadruple amputee. So he was born missing bones in both of his legs and in his arms. And
what are the challenges maybe that Matthew faces?
Yeah, the challenges that he faced, also the things that we were concerned about when he was younger was, number one, a big concern was, would he walk? Number two, would he be able to feed himself? Yeah, just anything really. Would he ever, and I never even thought he'd ever be able to do something like drive a car or, you know, live on his own or whatever.
Yeah.
But the main things were feeding himself, going to the washroom, walking on his own. Those were the challenges.
And what has he shown you over these years?
Well, basically, the first 2 years, he showed us a lot.
Yeah.
He started feeding himself at the age of 2. At the age of 3, he started walking. Yeah, and all the other stuff all came along. And so he's just, every time he has done something new, it was just such a celebration for us and just a huge event.
All right, well, we're going to take a quick break, but when we return, we're going to meet Matthew and hear how determined he is to live his life to the fullest. Stay with us.